Next speaker for this evening that it is my pleasure to present is Jon Pelto, who is candidate for the House of Representatives for Connecticut's 2nd Congressional District. Jon Pelto, a former state of Connecticut legislator and president of Impact Strategies Incorporated, has been a tireless advocate for educational reform and progressive policy to address many of the social and economic challenges facing Connecticut and the nation. It is my sincerest pleasure to welcome Green Party candidate for U.S. House of Representatives, Jon Pelto.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the introduction. I appreciate being on a panel with such an esteemed group of people that are working to change, and I particularly appreciate coming down here. It's not even a third Thursday, and we're bringing together people who are making a difference across Windham and across the region. My job tonight is to talk a little bit about why we should listen to what Jill Stein has to say in the next few minutes. Seems like a day doesn't go by, you need only turn on the TV or open up the newspaper to see another place that we have proven yet again that we're off on the wrong track, that we're dropping the ball, that we're not fulfilling our responsibility to make sure that we're leaving our children and our children's children with a world that is better and safer and healthier than the one that we inherited. There are times that we're called upon to actually have a profound impact. And now, more than I think any time in my lifetime, that moment has come. We see two paths, one that goes over the abyss immediately, a second that trails along the side, running the risk of going over the abyss at any moment, and that's the status quo. And then there's a third path, which is the one that we have the opportunity to take. A path that would actually put us on the right path. A path that would actually start to deal with the problems that are facing our society and our state and our community and our nation and our world. A day doesn't go by that we're not reminded that we have a tax system that coddles the rich and lets big corporations off the hook while it squeezes the middle class out of existence. A day doesn't go by that we don't see that we have a healthcare system that is creating two tiers, one for those that can afford the thousands of dollars a month to get health care, and the other for the rest of us that have to struggle to make ends meet. A day doesn't go by that we don't see that the problems with climate change are becoming more serious, not something that will happen in 50 years or 100 years, but impacts that will happen in our lifetime and undermine the very existence of our children and our grandchildren. A day doesn't go by that we're not reminded that we're wasting huge amounts of money on the military when we could be spending that money to be more secure and funding critical services. A day doesn't go by that we're not reminded that it's a world of pay to play, whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans, who have decided that if you give enough money, you're heard, and for those who don't give enough money, they're left behind. And a day doesn't go by that we're not reminded that education is becoming something that is less and less acceptable, accessible, less and less affordable, and being undermined by those who would want to see our children as little more than profit centers as they seek to bolster their own earnings. The privatization of public education, I believe, is the greatest threat to our American democracy of any of the threats that I've mentioned. But regardless of whether you pick that one or one of the others, the question is, what do we do about it? How do we make a difference? Here in Windham, we have, you have. Here in Eastern Connecticut, we have, you have. We know through hard work, through getting people to understand the issues, to persuade them to participate, to get them out to vote, we can actually have a profound and important impact. And so for us, it's more like bringing together a great symphony or a band, some group that will each play their own instrument and their own role in making a difference in what kind of world we're going to have, what kind of world we're going to have for ourselves, and most importantly, as I say, what kind of world we're going to have for our children and our children's children. We have to play like we've never played before, those instruments. We have to work like we've never worked before, and we need leaders who will help guide that. Not that leaders are any more important than any other player in the symphony or the band. Not that any one is more important than another, because to win, it's going to take all of us doing our own thing together and separately. But leaders do make a difference in helping guide the vision, in helping ensure that we keep on the path to victory. And that's the person that we're going to hear from tonight. Martin Luther King talked about his role not as a leader but as a drum major, somebody who was part of the fight as well as a leader in the fight. And I can safely say that the person who we're going to hear tonight has all of those capabilities, all of those credentials, all of those characteristics. I have had the chance to hear Jill Stein on multiple occasions talk about what the problems are, and more importantly, talk about what the solutions are. And I can assure you that having worked for candidates for more than 40 years, I have never seen a candidate who is as prepared, as capable, as ready to lead. We know that the challenges are great. The fact is we're fighting to even get Jill Stein into the debates, let alone to victory on Election Day. But whatever comes, it is part of a peaceful revolution. Because if we're not engaged in a peaceful revolution, we will certainly be forced to deal with a violent revolution. And so the question is, how do we get there? And the answer is we build. We build a third party that is capable of bringing together all of us who are sick and tired of the same answers from whether they're Democrats or Republicans. We build a bridge that allows all of us to work together to create a better world and a better state and a better community. And I can safely say that there is no person that I've met that is more capable of doing that than somebody who I consider to be an American hero, and that is the woman that we're going to hear from tonight. We have a lot of work ahead of us. Some will end in victories, others will be mild defeats, but each one gives us the chance to think about how better we can do, how much we can build, how much we can change, so that next time we come together in this auditorium or on the streets of Windham or the streets of Connecticut or the streets of the United States, that instead of carrying weapons, instead of carrying mace, instead of carrying pepper gas, instead of carrying rubber bullets, our enemies are fleeing from those of us who recognize that peace can be achieved, and peace can be achieved through the strength that comes by working together. So with that, let me turn it over to the person who is going to help lead that charge, who has been leading that charge and will continue to lead that charge. And let me introduce first Emily. You're going to introduce Jill?
Oh, yeah.
And then we will introduce and hear from Jill. And I want to thank you for all that you're doing for me, for the other candidates, and most importantly, what you're doing for our communities and our society. Because the time has come that there is no middle ground. We are either for the change or we're going to leave the status quo in place. And leaving the status quo in place is simply not an acceptable answer. So the chances are the time has come, the opportunity is here, and change is upon us. Thank you.